Hello all. Alright, so today we have a class that has to do with government. So it's kind of a U.S. government class, specifically certain parts of the Constitution that we're going to go over. I'm doing this because I like to keep up with current events and things that are going on in the world, and especially in our country right now. It's important for us to know that what's happening and to make sure that we understand why it's happening and what the appropriate ways of doing things are and what the inappropriate ways of doing things are. So today we're going to focus on the U.S. Constitution, and the difference for the first part of the class, it's going to be the difference between a peaceful protest, what that is, as opposed to a riot, and how the U.S. Constitution and the government really sees the difference, so that what everything comes down to. And it's an important difference to know right now because there's a lot of civil unrest going on, and some people are protesting appropriately, and then there comes the other side. And we've been part of peaceful protests before. When we go to Sacramento to demand rights and to demand funding that we've been promised and not been given, we go there and we peacefully protest and say we want what's been promised to us. So, we have been part of a movement. When we go to Sacramento, we are peacefully protesting at the Capitol building. But then, do we start throwing things at people? Do we start looting the Capitol? No, we don't do that. And so this is going to get into that, the difference between what a peaceful protest is, which is what, it is a right, and then we'll get into that more, specifically for the second part of the class. But for the first part of the class, we're going to go over basically the difference between what a peaceful protest is and a riot. And how does the U.S. government define the difference between a peaceful protest and a riot? So, generally speaking, a protest, in the sense relevant here, is usually organized public demonstration of disapproval. So again, it's organized. People have signs. They're obeying the laws, and it's organized. If you think back to when Martin Luther King spoke out and had his "I Have a Dream" speech, that was all organized. They definitely made sure that they had a venue, and they went to it, and they had everything set up. It was organized and ready to go. So, and it's a demonstration of disapproval amongst the people of some law, policy, idea, or state of affairs. And, so we have a right to disapprove of something that goes on in the country, and we have the right to protest that and say we want change. Now, the difference is, a riot is a disturbance of the peace created by an assemblage of usually 3 or more people acting with a common purpose and in a violent and tumultuous manner to the terror of the public. So, that is the main difference. A protest is something that is organized, that is set out to demonstrate the disapproval of people, again, holding up signs, chants, really voicing. Whereas then you get some more people and they come in, and instead of it being organized, it becomes very disorganized. And then it becomes tumultuous, violent, and it's a terror to the public, tearing down people's businesses, things like that. That is public property. That's actually private property, but it's a terror to the public. People can get hurt. People do get hurt. Starting fires, things like that, people get hurt. And people have been being shot and killed during this. And so, that is something, it's lawlessness, and that is something that we don't need. And that's what happens when people start to riot. And nobody wants that. But people do have a voice. And, when people are frustrated, they deserve to express what they're frustrated with. But when it goes beyond somebody, an overall good for everyone, to someone's personal gain, and just, I'm mad, so I'm going to smash something, that is a whole other realm. It's a whole other side of things that is not appropriate. that you can be jailed for, and honestly, you will be jailed for it if you're caught. That because it is against the law to just destroy things because you feel like destroying things. I understand the anger. I understand the anger that people have when it's a very passionate issue, which a lot of things are going on right now that are passionate, but it's no excuse. Nonviolence is always the way, um, and preaching nonviolence, as most people have. But again, to demonstrate organized is a protest. When it's disorganized and it's only for the gain of a few, then that's when it becomes a riot. So the term protest is used above is not formally defined in the U.S. Code as far as this paper knows. The Federal Anti-Riot Act of 1968 defines the term riot in part as a public disturbance involving an act or acts of violence by one or more persons, part of an assemblage of three or more persons which act or acts shall constitute a clear and present danger of, or shall result in damage or injury to the property of any other person, or to the person of any other individual. So again, that's it's just kind of reiterating that's, and it's three or more people. So say one person goes out and does something while protest is going on, that is not considered a riot. Say it's two people, a couple of friends go out and they're like, oh, we're going to do this. That's not a riot. But when it's three or more and you start getting more and more people involved, then that's what constitutes a riot. It starts to become bigger and more out of control. And then that's when, a lot more things have to happen. Because there's a huge part of self-governance. We need to be able to govern ourselves and say, I'm not going to do that. I do want to protest, but I don't want to go off this deep end and start smashing things up or start hurting people. We have to govern ourselves and make sure that we're not doing that. And if it's with three or more people, then you're inciting a riot. And then, things get worse. So the act prohibits interstate travel or the use of any facility of interstate commerce. So including the mail, telegraph, telephone, radio, or television, to incite or participate in a riot or to abet another person in doing so. Basically, so if you're getting people together to travel to a place only to incite riots or to act violently, or to use, say, the mail, telegraph, telephone, radio, television, any sort of, and say, we're going to go here, we're going to attack this place, and we're going to loot it, again, that's part of the Riot Act, or the Anti-Riot Act, that is going to be considered abetting someone and abetting a situation, which basically, abetting just means helping. You aid and abet somebody, you help them. Well, if you're going to incite a riot, and that's what that's doing, is using media as a means to do it, as opposed to just physically doing it, because some people can sit away and say, I don't want to get in trouble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell other people to do, to go out and riot, but I'm not going to do anything. Well, see, the Anti-Riot Act actually, with that, if you are a person inciting that sort of riot and saying, oh, no, go ahead and go do it, then you're just as culpable as the actual rioters are. The people that are actually going out and doing the looting and things like that. Many states and municipalities, have their own laws against rioting and incitement to riot based on similar definitions, while others prohibit the criminal elements of rioting, such as destroying property, arson, which is burning places down, arson, looting, assault, disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, unlawful assembly, under separate laws against those crimes. So, each state has, and each municipality has its own laws and things when it comes to this. So, every place kind of differs. But typically it's kind of the same, where it's like, as long as you're protesting and you have a reason to protest, that's fine. But when it comes to, I'm going to disturb the peace, I'm going to start blowing things up, I'm going to start burning things down. Well, see, that's not a peaceful protest. That has nothing to do with peace. Burning things down or hurting anyone is not peace. The right to engage in peaceful protest is, of course, protected by the First Amendment, which we'll get into in the second part of the class. Nevertheless, the Supreme Court has established that governments may limit protests through what they call time, place, and manner restrictions, which we'll go over as well, provided that the restrictions are content or viewpoint neutral, narrowly tailored to serve a significant government interest, such as public safety, and so formulated as to allow demonstrators ample alternative channels by which to communicate their messages. So, again, there are restrictions on peaceful protests, according to, the Constitution, which we'll get into. But it is protected by the First Amendment under freedom of speech. Now, again, when it comes to rioting, and I think this is an important thing to think about, is right now what's going on in the country is that people are upset with the police. That's why there's a lot of rioting going on right now, because of things that have happened. I'm not going to name instances specifically. I think that we know what we're talking about when it comes to police brutality and violence, that people are, when police overstep their bounds. Now, the way I look at it is this. It's kind of the same thing, and we need to make sure that we keep this in mind, is that when you have a peaceful protest, there's going to be the large number of people are going to be peacefully protesting. They're going to say, I'm here to get my message across. I'm here to defend the rights of people. I'm here to defend the rights for myself, for my family, but for all families, of all races, religions, creeds, of everyone. And and sometimes it's specific to a group. I'm here to defend specific groups because they're the groups that are being targeted. And it can happen with many, it's happened throughout time. Say it's for ourselves with individuals with developmental disabilities. Say it's for women and the right to vote. Say it's for African Americans or black people in the black community and Black Lives Matter. Say it has to do with gay people and having gay pride parades and things like that. Most people, when they do get together, they're assembling and they're doing it peacefully. Now, you're going to have a handful of people that are going to get out of control and take advantage of the situation and in some ways just really ruin it for everyone else that's really trying to get a message across. But you're going to have a handful. The majority, again, is good. But then you're going to have the looters and you're going to have people that take advantage. Now, as it is now that people are protesting the police, what I think that we need to understand as well is that it's the same sort of thing. That the majority of police officers are good people. They got into joining the police to protect and serve, to be peace officers. It's peace officers that's actually to keep the peace. And the majority of them are good people. But again, people take advantage, and there are officers that are not trying to keep the peace. That they're trying to take advantage in the same way that the rioters and looters are. They take a certain amount of power from what they can find, and they exploit that power. And that's what's being protested, is not the majority of police. People really need the police. We do need them. It's important to have. We need to be, but the public and the police need to be able to work with each other. And it's about weeding out the bad parts, just like with the rioters. There's lawlessness when it comes to police sometimes, and there's lawlessness when it comes to civilians sometimes. Now, what it is we need to be able to figure this out and be able to be self-governed and say, hey, no, I shouldn't be doing this. And police officers need to be able to have the training so that they can help self-govern themselves. So like I'm saying, we need to look at this as not all things are bad. Most things are actually good. A lot of times things get blown out of proportion some, but at the same time, things need to happen. As long as things are happening that affect many people and have been for a long time, something needs to be said. But it can't be forgotten that there are many people out there that are there to protect rights, be it police officers, be it civilians, be it anyone, be it politicians. There's a majority of really good people that are trying to get things done well, and then there's always going to be a handful, at least, of people that take advantage of their power, that take advantage of a situation. And then that's where things go wrong. So again, it's self-governance. We need to learn to govern ourselves and make sure that we're doing things in the correct manner. Of course, that's kind of my 2 cents, but that's kind of the way I see it, the way I'm seeing how everything's going. But rioting is never good. We know what it is. You can see it when it's willful destruction of property or violence against other people. We know that that's not right, and so that needs to change. But we definitely need to be able to voice what our concerns are when it comes to our government, when it comes to our society and where we are. We need to be able to have a voice, and that's what the First Amendment is for. So again, this is where it comes back to the U.S. Constitution, is you have a First Amendment right to peacefully protest. So we'll get into that in the second part of the class. If you have any questions about the difference between rioting and peaceful protest, please, ask me at any time. But anyway, peace to everyone, and that's, my 2 cents always. Let's just be kind to each other. All right. I'll see you for the second part of the class.